So you're telling me if these, teenagers and 20-somethings all got their, panties in a bunch over something, I don't know, oat milk or whatever, that Starbucks has to pay them? This segment is brought to you by Eastside Weight Loss Clinic. Sick of fad diets that work for a couple months and then you gain all the weight back? Well, I'm down 37 pounds on the Eastside Weight Loss Clinic program, and I've kept that weight off for more than a year. Schedule your free 15-minute consultation today at eastsideweightlossclinic.com. One of the really important things that happened in the dark last night is the State House passed a bill that would give unemployment benefits to striking workers. Yes, and now there's some argument that the bill was slightly improved during this process. I actually think it was made worse. I'll discuss that in a moment, but this from the Washington State Standard. Washington House approves unemployment benefits for striking workers. It says under the legislation, striking workers would become eligible for unemployment insurance on the second Sunday following the first day of a strike, and could then begin to receive benefit payments after an additional 1-week waiting period. The bill would also remove a section of state law that disqualifies employees from unemployment insurance during employer-initiated labor lockouts. Lawmakers amended the bill on the floor, and here's the part where I'm like, is that really better? These changes included adding a 4-week limit on benefits for striking workers. Okay, I like that. Got to have a limit on it. And language to shift the cost of the benefits onto the employer involved in the labor dispute, rather than spreading the expense across the unemployment insurance system. Another amendment specified that benefits may not be paid during strikes prohibited by federal or state law or a court order, which makes sense. But it's that part about not socializing it out. In theory, I'm always going to err on the side of less socialism. So look, and that was the problem with this bill inherently, if you've got workers who are of their own volition striking, not going into work, not getting a paycheck, and that is by their choosing, you're telling me that we, the taxpayers, need to foot the bill for their pay, their unemployment during that period of time? That's ridiculous. What this amendment did is said that when there's labor disputes, the employer needs to foot the bill for that. And I actually don't think that's very fair to the employer either. So now as the government, you're going to say, oh, you have to pay your workers during a strike, whether the strike is even justified or not. I mean, hell, don't we have Starbucks baristas striking? I mean, we're trying to strike or unionizing. And it's like, what? They're like the highest paid baristas in the world? And Starbucks will give them, if they want it, like money to go to college? So you're telling me if these, teenagers and 20-somethings all got their, panties in a bunch over something, I don't know, oat milk or whatever, that Starbucks has to pay them? So as much as I appreciate that burden not being placed on taxpayers, I also think it's absurd for the government to give striking workers this kind of protection and then also force the employer to bear the burden of the unemployment benefits. In a moment, I'll get to our daily subscriber show poll because I made it on this subject. I was very curious what you guys thought about that, but I had to laugh because you know what happened at the same time that they were passing this bill, which, by the way, I think there was 4. Let me double check on that, and I should read their names because remember what I've always said about positive reinforcement? All the Republicans voted against this. 5 Democrats also voted against it. I mean, there's still enough Democrats for it to pass, but Mike Chapman, Deborah Entenman, Larry Springer, Mylon Tai, and Amy Wallen all voted against it. So, okay, I'm going to give you a little appreciation there. But you know what happened while this was going on last night? The Stranger announced they're forming a union. The writers at The Stranger are forming a union. Related? Well, maybe so. It's called the Index Media Union, which apparently owns The Stranger and then some of these other alt weeklies like the Portland Mercury. So from the Index Media Union account, for decades, workers at The Stranger and Portland Mercury have fostered an alternative voice in Pacific Northwest media. Today, we have asked the upper management at Index Media to voluntarily recognize our union. Index Media workers are deeply invested in our work, but we face uncertainty, ever-growing responsibilities, God forbid, and wages far below those of our industry competitors. We realize the best way to ensure we are heard in shaping the future of this company, our roles and wages, is to form a union. We've built a reputation on eating the rich and standing up for progressive values. We're asking Index Media to embody those values through voluntary recognition. These might be the only strikes I'd ever fully support. In fact, to my friends at The Stranger, strike as much as you'd like in 2024. Man, I'll go on the picket lines with you. In fact, I think 2024 in the election cycle is a wonderful time for you to go on strike. So I'm fully in support of that. I will stand with my comrades on the picket line as long as you need, especially since under this bill, if it becomes law, taxpayers aren't going to bear the burden of your unemployment insurance while you go on strike, and the Stranger will have to do that. And then maybe all of this will just lead the Stranger to fold. You know who's supporting the Stranger in their stand against evil rich people? It'll come as a surprise. The socialists. Socialists love this. The Seattle Democratic Socialists of America said, "Solidarity time. We stand with the Stranger, the Portland Mercury, and ever out." Wow. Imagine that. The socialists supporting unionization at the Stranger. It's all very interesting.